Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted to be joined by Owen McKendry. We are a couple of days away now from the big fight night in Manchester. Obviously, Liam Smith versus Chris Eubank Jr. 2, the rematch. On the undercard, we've got Florian Marku versus Dylan Moran. Fight that I think it's maybe not chief support. There's other fights in this undercard, but it's a fight that those in this country, those in Ireland, those in Albania will have firm eyes on. Owen, thanks for joining me. First of all, just give me your thoughts on this fight before we go into the betting tips.
We actually did the reaction to this, but it's just I still think it's massively high risk, low reward for Marku. He's coming in on the back of a fight which I think arguably lost in his home country. If it was somewhere else outside of Albania, would he have got the decision? Probably not, but we know that's how boxing works sometimes. He's fighting Dylan Moran, who's relatively unknown. We've seen what Marku's like. You know, he's quite mouthy. He backs himself. He's great value for entertainment. You know, we see him at press conferences and he's having all these clashes with different fighters, some that are trump him in size. But yes, I just think Dylan Moran's not a massive name at the stage of Marku's career, where at one point his trajectory was not technically the greatest, but entertainment, title fights, that sort of thing, sort of European level. But yeah, high risk, low reward. If he loses this, it's major question marks.
Yeah, like it's an interesting one. Like I think he last year, I think it's fair to say was quite a good year for Marku. Beat Chris Jenkins in a good fight in Newcastle, and then had that homecoming in Albania. And he's been that fight in Albania was August last year, so it's been a year now since he was in the ring. Obviously, a frustrating time for him, I would imagine. And yeah, we'll see what happens on Saturday. Just going to say the guys' records before we kind of get into it. Florian Marku is 12-0 with one draw. Dylan Moran is 18-1 with a one stoppage defeat coming back in 2019. So over 4 years ago now. Depends if some people would look into that, some people wouldn't do. And Moran himself has got 8 stoppages in his 18 wins. Going to get right into it, Owen. Going to do one betting tip each. What is yours? You go first.
I tried to find value in this fight, and it's quite difficult because obviously Marku's heavy, odds-on favourite, as you'd expect. I toyed between the upset with Moran. I think he's good odds and good value for the upset, but I just think after Marku's performance in Albania, and we know what he's like, I really do think he's going to come out all guns blazing and fire him from the first bow. Sky Bet have currently got a boost on of 3-1 of Marku in rounds 1 to 5. So just outside of the full first half of the fight. I like that price. I just think he's the type of person that, like I say, he'll come out sort of gung-ho from the start, and just to put the doubters to bed after his last performance, because I know a lot of people didn't watch it because it was on at a really weird and random time. I watched it myself, and I just thought he didn't really get out of second gear. I think he thought he was better than his opponent, and I think that caused him issues. So I think he's going to come in to look to dispatch Dylan Moran in style. So yeah, I think rounds 1 to 5 boosted 3-1. I do think there's some value in that.
Yeah, I think that if you consider that, if you asked 100 people for their opinions here, what's your prediction? I think most people would say Marku by stoppage. So 3-1 for rounds 1 to 5, pretty good value. To be honest, I can't argue with that at all. To be honest, I do like the sound of that. It's a tricky one because I feel like Dylan Moran, 18-1. He's not really fought someone of note, but he's got a good record. But I just think I think a lot of people don't know how good this guy is. He's fought all over Europe, so he's not really kind of like the way Florian Marku settled in Britain. I know he had that one fight in Albania, but he's had a lot of fights in Britain now, the same way, you know, Joseph Parker has had a lot of his fights in Britain. Or like Beluta, the guy who fought Dennis McCann the other week. They've had a lot of fights in Britain now, so we've gotten to know them as fighters. Whereas Dylan Moran, he's kind of been all over the place, and I don't feel like, unless you're a real hardcore fan or you've got lots of spare time on your hands, you're not going to know him. So I've seen odds of Dylan Moran to win the fight is 6-1, to win by stoppage is 10-1, to win by decision is 10-1. But if I'm being honest, Owen, that doesn't really tempt me, if I'm being completely honest with you. I've had a look, and Marku's last 4 fights, 3 of them have been points wins, and there's just been the 1 stoppage in his last 4 fights, that being against Chris Jenkins. And Marku to win by decision is 9-4. So that's what's tempting me here. Not as good odds as you're offering, but I just think Marku, I don't consider him to be a massive puncher.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of depends what Moran's chin holds up to, but I wouldn't rule out a points win, and I think 9-4 is decent value there.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the problem with this fight, especially on betting purposes, let alone viewing purposes, is there's question marks. I personally, I looked through his record. I don't think I've ever seen Dylan Moran box. So I think personally it would be half on Dylan Moran to make any assumptions, because he could come in, he could get that shock win, and he could dance around Marku for 12 rounds. Yeah. You know, it's one of those. It's a complete unknown, or like I say with my price, he could come in and get blitzed. So I think, especially the way Marku was in his last, like say, 4 fights, I think 9-4 on points against an unknown fighter who, like you say, could be chinny, could have an absolute iron chin. So I think 9-4 points is quite, to be fair, it's a bit wider than I'd have expected. I know, like something stupid like 1-8 to win the fight. 9-4 on points is good value. But like you say, it's an intriguing one, because Dylan Moran, it's an old cliche, but he could genuinely be anything. Yeah. It's so like you say, because he's been around Europe, it's okay, has he been around Europe because he's just willing to fight anyone, or he struggles to get fights? Yes. So I do like these style fights, because it can either be eye-opening or, okay, I should have expected that sort of thing. Yeah,
it's a tricky one. No, we'll see. I think it's going to be a good fight. I think Marku is sometimes in entertaining fights, sometimes not so much. And we'll see. I'm not really sure what's there for the winner in this fight, what the winner moves on to, but we will see. Owen, been good to, obviously we did the reaction when this fight got announced. It's been good to discuss some betting tips as well. And yeah, we'll see what happens on fight night. But thank you very much for your time, and I'll speak to you again soon.